she gets perked.
Good to go.
Okay. Calling to order the regular meeting of the Charter Revision Commission for December 11th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Jennifer Knopf-Snyder.
Roll call.
Oh, I didn't know I was doing the meeting, I'm sorry, that's my fault. Brown. Cochran.
Here.
Hoganson.
Here.
Knopf-Schneider.
Here.
Metz.
Here.
Neal.
Present.
Paholka.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
For approval of the agenda, we have a couple of changes. We are adding on the agenda the resolution to excuse Jim Brown due to illness. And under new business, item A, Mrs. Bowman is not able to be with us this evening, so we are moving her to January 8th. Any other changes to the agenda? With that, approval, all say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to,
Excuse me, Jennifer, did we get a motion on that?
You can say I motioned it.
we haven't voted on the resolution yet.
We haven't done the minutes yet. That was just
The
to approve.
resolution,
Oh, you just
That
approved
was
the
just
agenda.
approving.
Okay, yeah, we.
Yeah.
okay. The next item is to approve the minutes of both October 9 and November 13. So starting with October 9, are there any additions, corrections, deletions to the minutes?
Motion to accept October.
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
November 13th, any additions, deletions, corrections?
November.
Have a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Need
Did
the
you make the
motion.
motion?
I did.
I'm sorry, yeah. You what you said.
I'm sorry, my voice.
No, it's okay. I heard you say something, just didn't register.
All in favor of approving the minutes of November 13th, say aye.
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 All opposed? Minutes are approved. We do need someone to make a resolution, move, sorry, it's 4:30 a.m. A motion to approve the resolution excusing James.
Motion to approve. Second.
I believe you need a roll call for this.
Hoganson.
Yay, or,
Schneider. Metz.
yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Paholka.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Cochran.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lutzman, I'm hoping is going to be here before 6, so we are going to skip number 5 for the moment. Are there any communications from the post office? No communications. Okay, item 7, public outreach. We are talking about survey.
Survey is up, and ready to collect. I also have, I don't know if we want to look at them or, so I didn't want the survey to be set up in an account that was like attached, that was like my personal
Right.
account. So I set us up an account as using the email for the CRC, with the city. So,
It wasn't Big Rapids CRC at Gmail, was it?
yes,
Uh-oh.
why?
I got that notification in the email, the CRC email, and I didn't recognize it. It said it wanted to be used as a recovery email. I thought, who in the world
Okay,
would be
that-
doing a
that
recovery
won't-
email? So I'm sorry,
That's okay, that won't harm it, that won't do anything to it, I'll just go in and set up an alternate recovery email, but I just, or I'll try to set it again. But what I wanted basically was to have something that everybody, or at least anybody we wanted to identify from our group to have access to, and my personal Gmail account wasn't ideal for that. So I set us up a Big Rapids, crc@gmail.com, Google account, which gives us access to Google Drive, where we have the survey out there, we can collect responses in that folder rather than having it go to anybody's personal folder and potentially be mishandled, so we can gate or guardrail however we want access to the Gmail account I've set up. Also in there, I have a couple of graphics for social media that I created should we want to work with, like we discussed last time, going to Steve Gov and asking for him to publish something online, pointing people to it. I created a QR code specifically to the survey, but then also routed people through citybr.org/CRC, because that shortened URL is live. I also routed people who didn't want to use QR code. So we've got 2 points of coverage in terms of how people want to access us and the form out there.
Is it on the website, on the page?
And I can, if you want, I can pull that drive up and show you the graphic. I don't know how long we want to stall for Mr. Letzman, or I can just send it around via email, or we can share access to the Google Drive and everybody can look at it.
Okay, here it is, slideshow. So then they just click whatever in the circle, yes or no, or they put an
They're
answer
like
in the
radio
blank.
buttons. Yep.
And do they have to save all that before they submit it, or how's it submitted?
Scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a submit button.
Thank you so much, Ann.
And if you want, I can, and I don't know if we want to spend much time on this, but if you want, I can jump in the drive and show you guys the graphics.
I think a little time.
They are in the, so this is just a form that's being hosted by that Google Drive, and they're in a folder, like a storage folder out there online. Is it gonna mess you up, Stacy?
No, we're good. You, where you guys log in?
God, everybody's watching me type, and it's just
We'll look away. Oh, it hurts to remember that. No.
highly encrypted.
Ryan, while they're getting that, it occurs to me, so now what we need to do is get the word out that the survey is up. Did you want to write something for the Pioneer? Do you have?
Yeah, I'll do something for the Pioneer. It was in the last week's water bill too,
The survey with the link?
the link.
Oh, awesome.
In the newsletter.
In the newsletter, okay, very good.
Now, how long did you guys want this? Because you could probably put it in the newsletter again in January if you want to keep it in there.
Yeah, we're gonna leave it up for a little while. I think we'll see how.
So
how we're
he's working
doing.
on the newsletter pretty soon here.
Yeah, of course, my concern is with, right in the middle of holiday season, I don't know who's gonna be paying attention right now.
I didn't pay attention, I did not see it, and I was even looking for it, so. Yeah. So maybe put it in again.
Yeah, we will have to do multiple reminders, for folks in different avenues. Okay.
Oops, sorry, I clicked up. So this is the survey, or this is the survey. If anybody's looking for the actual instrument itself, but this green that kind of looks like an Excel spreadsheet icon, that's the actual response collection tool. And then I've got a graphic if the city wants to be so lovely as to make us like their cover image. We can use that in that space, it's sized correctly. And then should they want to just make a post, there's a post graphic.
That QR code will take them right to the survey.
But if they go to cityofbr.org/CRC, they're one step away because all they have to do is click in the. And then finally, I did put some copy in here too, if anybody wants to review it or take a look. This is probably for when we're closer to having the city make a post on our behalf. But I've just got a copy introducing the survey and then 2 reminder things. And this would be the content of the post along with that image. So that's.
Great, thank you so much, Ann. That's awesome.
What's the password to get to that drive? Or do I need a password to get to it?
Yeah, you would let me write it all down for you because it's Big Rapids, CRC, at gmail.com, but then also I don't think we want the password to be part of public record. Or anybody could access it.
Okay, awesome. Let us keep our fingers crossed. We get a halfway decent percentage return.
Mr. Letzman?
Did we decide if we want us to fill it out?
I
Did we talk about?
We decided that we should not fill it out.
We should not. I have opinions. Oh, we live in the city.
Vision Commission. Jennifer is right down here and she's expecting.
I thought it was 6 o'clock.
Yeah, actually, you're just in time.
Where was that? Sit out in the hall?
No, that's not. You can set yourself right. And I will reduce my spread.
Why am I confused? Was
Well,
it 6
I
o'clock?
would just say join the club because we're all a little confused today. Okay, well, I guess we're going back to item 5. Everyone, I would like to introduce you Mr. Peter Lutzman, who is the gentleman that we talked about. We looked at his credentials. He is an attorney, has, 50 years? I read your materials. He's been doing this since he was clearly a child. Of charter revisions, all kinds of cities, small, large villages, and so on and so forth. We've talked about, we've looked at what he's done. He's here to meet with us and for us to get to know him. And so if you have questions for him, please feel free to ask them. Once again, our purpose here is to make sure that we are on the smooth and right track so that we can improve our chances of getting through Lansing with as little difficulty as possible and onward to a positive approval of the charter whenever it goes on the ballot, which is probably November 26th. So, Peter, do you have a particular way you wanted to do this, or?
Well, I want to, I guess the thing I want to know is how you proceed or how you want to proceed and what, how you want me to interact. There are some municipalities that just say, we want this, we want districts, give us a paragraph for district voting, or, precincts and so on. We want a city manager, we want to remove a city manager, we want to appoint the fire chief, or the council wants to appoint, we want to unappoint the fire chief, let the city, all of those policy, and they say, okay, let's do something. On the other hand, there are some municipalities that already have a charter, and they are just going through paragraph by paragraph and saying, we like this, we don't like this. And that's, maybe Flint is the best example of that, where they were very concerned with the finances. Flint, as you may or may not know, is in big trouble financially and ethically and morally and all sorts of other leads that, as a matter of fact, there's a lawsuit now against the city council for not following the charter. Charter provision says that they have to replace one of their one of their council members died. They have to replace a council member within 30 or 60 days. They have not. It's 90 or 120 days. I think they just don't want to replace the person because he was always a contrarian and voted against it, so they don't want to fill that spot. They're playing a little politics by, just juggling the votes. So that's another way of doing it. My mission here is I would like to get a letter from, well, this one is from Whitmer. but it says, I'm responding to the request for approval of the proposed charter revision for the city of Stevenson. And it goes on to, says, I'm notifying you that I approve the proposed revision pursuant to the Home Rule Cities Act for submission to the voters at special election to be held at blah, 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 blah. That's my
That's our goal.
mission here to do that. And, almost, but you guys are gonna be doing, you've already done a lot of work. And what do you wanna make sure that your work doesn't go down the toilet tube, if I can be colorful here a little bit, that the voters will recognize what you are doing. And that means that you probably are going to have to go out and politic a little bit or promote the charter. Now, I will say that that's one of the things the Charter Commission did right in, well, the Charter Commission was good, City Council not so good. But the Charter Commission, they met at churches, they had, well, I don't know, they probably had in the 30 days or 60 days, I don't know, at least a dozen. And they got the ministers in the community together, and they had big, I know I went to one of the meetings where they must have had 200 people, asking questions about the charter. So I think not only should we get this past the governor or really the AG's office, and then let's get the majority of the voters plus one to vote for the charter. If you think it's a good charter, if it's not a good charter, then let's not. And that's, sometimes the city of Albion worked with them a little bit, and they decided that they didn't want to change the charter. They were happy with it after they reviewed it, and there were people who were grousing and said they were happy with it. So maybe help me a little bit in saying what's bothering you, Elmer.
There's a lot of things that we've gone through and we've looked at and changes we want to make. They're minor, a lot of them are minor changes. Some inclusivity, the right word. Making sure that it matches with today's technology, today's the way we do business today, financially, how it works. But we've done through just about all of it, and no major changes, but a lot of little changes that we want to go.
Of course, there's a lot of tweaking, and the things that I try to, that may not be illegal, I try and sell myself as a legal counselor and consultant, so that I can give you advice more than just legal advice. Here's an option, have you tried this? I've seen this happen in another city, or, that type of thing.
That's the type of information we need.
I'd like to do that, to do that for you. The overall thought is that, this is your Constitution. And the federal Constitution has lasted 246, help me out, somebody do the math.
Pretty clear.
246 years. And most charters, you don't want to have a charter revision every other year. It's expensive, it's burdensome, and so on. But on the other hand, you do want to have some cities have a review date every 16 years, every 20 years, or so on. There shall be a charter review, or the voters shall have an opportunity to have. Do they want to have the question? Do they want to have a charter revision commission? There's the types of things that write the charter for 25, 30, 40 years, or so on, and try and recognize the technology that we don't even know exists now, so that we are flexible in our finances, we are flexible in our fire department, we are flexible in our just about in our operation, so we don't have to come back and do a charter amendment or tweaking or so on. So What do you want to know about me?
How many city charters have you got past the governor?
All the ones that I've submitted to them.
Okay, is that one or is that?
Oh, no, 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 no. Let me see, we did Pontiac, Flint, Essexville, Stevenson. Those are the ones in the last couple, 4 or 5 years that I've done. I've gone, I do 1 or 2 a year, perhaps, some years not so much. There aren't that many charters that are being changed or revised here in Michigan. No, there just aren't,
Well, I know we started out talking about revising the city charter a few years ago in a previous commission, because we had staff members coming to say, this is outdated, this doesn't hold up anymore, this isn't relevant to what we're doing now. So I think we started out with that mindset, working through the charter to see what needed to be updated, what needed to be revised. I think as we have been working through it, and it's almost quite a full year that we've been at this, realizing that there are some places that are a little more nuanced, that we need some guidance with. There are some things that we are interested in adding in, making sure that that's legally kosher to do or not. We are just getting ready to launch a survey to try and gauge from the public kind of a few things. Number one, what they think are the values and that should govern city government. But the key question that is on there has to do with our term limits. Currently, we have the mayor and the commissioners are all on the same schedule. We have terms that are 4 years each, and everybody's limited to 3 consecutive terms, no matter whether it's the mayor or commissioners. The question again came up several years ago, should we separate the mayor's terms from the commissioner's terms because the mayor's work is a little different? It's a question, and there's no consensus about this.
let me interrupt you. Equally important is to stagger the commissioner's terms.
Yeah, that we do.
So that you don't have a whole,
Lou coming up for reelection.
All our boards
We do that. And so far, in the kind of limited feedback we have on that particular question, it's inconclusive. It's there, people are all over the about it.
then let me ask, you said 3 consecutive terms, so they serve 3 terms, they sit out a term, then they can come back and do 3 more?
Actually, they only have to sit out 1 year.
1 year. You don't
Okay.
have to sit
All
on
right.
it for 4 years. 4 years.
We just had a commissioner elected in 21, this last municipal election, who had done just that. She had completed her 12 years, she was sat out 2 years, and then she ran again.
And was she elected?
As he was. So these are kind of some of those kinds of things that we're grappling with.
Do you elect the clerk?
No, the clerk is appointed.
Do you fire the clerk?
We have, the clerk works for the pleasure of the commission. I'm the clerk.
And we're getting rid of her.
This is our outgoing clerk and our incoming clerk.
No. You said, how do they fire the clerk? You go to the
The
commission?
commission would fire, yes.
Who appoints, the commission appoints the clerk?
Yes.
Okay, who does the clerk report to?
The city manager and the commission with the charter, it's the city manager.
Yeah, see, therein lies a
But the
little,
commission,
therein lies a little issue. Do I respond to the commissioners?
I respond to both.
Or, well, yes, I know, so that makes you schizophrenic.
Not really, not really.
First time she's been called that.
These are very adept.
What I'm saying is that there may be occasions where there's a conflict between what the manager is telling you and perhaps what the city commission is asking of you.
We've really never had a problem, because we've had retreats, we've had people, facilitators come in to tell them, pretty much discuss where their boundaries are.
Yeah, I'm picking on the clerk a little bit because I knew you
That's
were
fine.
here. But, you know, there are the other appointees.
Yes, you've
Okay.
got assessing, you've got the city treasurer, you've got the city attorney, the city clerk.
And should they be a kind of bifurcated, you know, reporting to the city manager, but being appointed by the city council? So if the city manager is very unhappy with you for, I don't know, pilfering the petty cash, as clerks sometimes do.
The money.
Yes, they don't have access to petty cash.
No, I'm teasing you, I hope you know. But, you know, so the city manager's totally disgusted with you and wants to fire you. He can't fire you. You gotta go to city council, and city council then says, we love her. Keep her on, you know, she always buys us Christmas presents and sends us a bottle of Jack Daniels on my birthday and, you know, all of those. By the way, I don't know if you know, I like a little bit of humor. I went to the Mary Poppins School of Philosophy. A little spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down, you know. A little humor makes it a little bit
We
easier
like humor. It's all good.
to do that. Anyway, that's one of the things, I don't know if you've looked at it, but, you know, that's one of the things that councils or that charter commissions look at to see if it's working.
It has been.
Okay, and you're the ones that will make the decision, and that's the other thing too. When you say we're going to take a survey, the people of Big Rapids elected you to make some decisions. And they're looking to you to make some decisions. It's not like a democracy. You may make some decisions for the city of Big Rapids that may not be popular with the majority of people. Honesty, for example.
Honesty?
Honesty,
Honesty?
you know, that type of thing. Or you know, there are things. For example, if you really think, do you have wards now?
We have-
Wards that you,
No.
or you're at large. So, you know, maybe you think that wards are really the best thing for, or better yet, term limits. It's an easy one. And the majority of the people say, no, we don't want term limits. You guys really, obviously, your predecessors thought term limits were important. I don't know what the consensus is here, but suppose they come back and say, well, we don't want term limits. You have to make those decisions regardless of what the popular vote is or the popular results of your survey.
Ultimately, the residents will make that ultimate decision.
Oh, yeah, yes, but what you're going to do is you're going to give them, and that's what they want from you, your best thinking. So what else would you like to know about me? How many have not been fired by any cities?
How long does it usually take? When you've submitted this to the governor, how many times have you had to kick back? You have too many kickbacks, then you have to correct it and send it back again?
So what happens is after we do our best work, get our document in its best form, shape as we possibly can, then we send it to the Attorney General, or actually we send it to the government, but anyway, we send it to Lansing for a pre-approval. And I sit with the Attorney General, and sometimes I've sat with him 20 hours, 30 hours, going over the charter. And it's quite funny that what they may have approved 10 years ago, they don't like today, and it's some silly thing like language. So you want that kind of language? We're not gonna fight over language, you know, we'll fight over substance that you guys want. So anyway, we sit with the Attorney General, we tweak all of the whole charter, bring it back here, either piecemeal or in total, for you to review what the changes are. Usually they're not significant. the person, you've worked with George, or you've talked to George Elworth.
Communicated with them, yeah.
George is even older than I am, and has been in the Attorney General's office doing this stuff for 50 years, so he does it kind of, all the charters that I've worked with George, and that goes through. So how long does it take from the time you guys get it to the time we get from the time that you finish to the time that George and I finish? It all depends. I would like to have 8 weeks between that. We'd like to have the work done 6 months before it goes on the ballot. Because I don't know, have you got the schedule?
8 months.
Got the schedule from the Secretary of State when the local items have to be on the,
Well, Jennifer got some kind of timeline. What did you get?
That was a checklist
Oh, checklist.
from Mr. Ellsworth.
No, we don't have a timeline.
well, again, it's published
They
and,
told us it would take at least 6 months for them to review.
yes, that's what
That's what
they wanted,
we
a 6
yeah.
months lead periods, but I'll tell you, I got one through in about 3 weeks. They were just desperate to have, so you have 3 years to finish your work here. And this is, I'm talking out of school now here a little bit, but that was Essexville. They had dilly-dallied for 2.5 years, and all of a sudden George told them, you guys are in deep doo-doo. It's a legal term from Harvard. Deep doo-doo in terms of your time limits, you're running out. And so somehow, I don't know whether George mentioned or whatever, me, so I was up at working with Essexville. And they had a lot of stuff done. I just took their stuff and kind of cleaned it up a little bit, made it legal as much as I could. I think we got Essexville, my work at Essexville was maybe 3 months or so, and then twisted George's arm a little bit. The important thing is that we have to get a resolution from City Council, then to the county clerk. County clerk has got to put it on the ballot, and he's got to send it back, all the other municipalities, I've approved the language to make sure that it's proper. And then, the ballots are printed. And that's what, 60 days, or even now, that time from when the ballots are printed to election day is getting more and more because of the overseas ballots and, now so anyway.
Here about 3 months,
So that pushes us back as much as we possibly
9
can.
months.
And one of the things I think I put on my list is that we almost have to develop a timeline. Almost the first thing is, what is our goal? Now, if City of Flint wasn't a bad example, it would be no example at all. They went once a month to do. And then, when we're running out of time, we were meeting twice a week.
We have a quasi timeline. Would you like to look at that to see if we're on track?
But where did this come from? Is this your timeline? Okay.
Yeah.
This is what preceded, the city commission adopted the resolution here and so forth.
All right.
We had the election here.
So what I'm concerned about is starting here and going back.
Yeah.
Make and to make sure that that's the current Secretary of State. She's the one who controls the timeline there.
Are you talking about for the elections, or what kind of timeline for the Secretary of State?
For the election.
Right, we would need to know, we don't
Yeah.
have that calendar for 26 or something yet?
Yeah.
Well, we're going to do it, for 20.
25?
We're going to put it for 26, is that what you're shooting for?
Yeah.
Okay, that gives us a little breathing room,
Right,
and,
and we don't
Yeah,
have.
that would be like the end of our
We're
3
thinking
years.
November, so
Yeah.
if we know it's November, we know we gotta go, and they say 6 months, so we're 3 months before to get it on the ballot, and then you go 6 months before that, and you just keep,
I can't figure that so we have to have our work done, in April?
well, it's,
Other thing to keep in mind is that if we put it on the ballot, and this is at the expiration of our 3 years,
Yeah.
then we're done. Now, if this is the expiration of our 2.5-year deadline, or our 2-year deadline, and the voters say, gee, we wanted an elected, we have a manager here. And we want to have a strong mayor rather than, that's what it is. So we can take it back, change that particular paragraph or section, and resubmit it to the voters a second time within our 3-year period. So we have a second bite at the apple if we're within 3 years.
Didn't know that was an option.
Does that mean you can, then you don't have to go back to the state first?
Well, we would then have to resubmit it to the state, but
You
then.
have to go through the whole thing?
But they've approved everything but the one paragraph, so that'll be a quick type of thing. I mean, I brought some information that you didn't know.
No, there's a lot of information I'm sure you have that we don't know.
Just the thing is,
That's why we're hiring you, man.
well, that's the thing, but you
Don't mind me
have to
teasing.
realize you have to have, that means you really need to wrap it up. And you're double pacing it now
Well,
in order to get the 2.5 years.
you're in charge of this. And, there are some charter commissions that end up in frustration. Not that I've worked with, but said we can't do it, and so they go. Detroit is an example of that. They do a charter revision commission just about every other year. And there's two ways of starting, either city council can start the charter revision or it can be started by the voters. They can pass out petitions and put it on a ballot that way. So, anyway, that's in Detroit. There's always a group that wants to change the charter. Okay, any other questions? I haven't dazzled you with my brilliance yet, have I? Give me a chance to show.
No, but you baffled us.
No, I think this is one of the things about when you start getting into the nitty-gritty of this document and what it represents and in the framework of the system, that you have to be thinking about who's gonna be reading this, what do we have to do? Now, one thing, of course, I know you mentioned in your scope of things that you do, because we had a little committee that was going to be wordsmithing, but I have the feeling that we can avail ourselves of the expert wordsmith here. We may be able to not have to stress about that. One of the things I mentioned to you earlier when we talked was the issue of making the document accessible to the public, language-wise, not baffling them with a lot of legalese stuff, or when is it necessary to have the legalese in there? I'm not sure, but I don't know what you told me that the trend of the profession is moving toward plain talk.
Plain English is,
That's
is
very encouraging.
it's, I mean, think about it. If you want to buy a car and you read a chattel mortgage, you know what a chattel mortgage is for starters. Well, that's your sort of your mortgage for the car, your indebted document, your IOU. And with all the heretofores and all of that, the normal person can't read or understand it, let alone right now the folks who in Detroit, the typical education is 5th grade, 4th grade, something we're reading at that level. Those folks, that level of education just can't understand that. I do a lot of court mediations. I do the court or the mediation agreements, and I have to make sure that everybody really understands what it is. Anyway, yeah, we try and be monosyllabic.
Works for me.
We have an English teacher here. Teacher at all. Just simple words, if we possibly can.
Well, I think, you know, we all want people to, and I appreciate, I don't know how high in the sky this is, because that's usually where I live in my mind. But making sure that people understand what is being said. I'd like to hope that we can help inform the public a little better about how government is supposed to be working to the best of our ability. So,
And then that's gotta be workable too. Has the various department heads come to you to review their charter paragraph to say this is working, this isn't working? I have found that when they really get honest, and when we turn off the recorder, that we haven't been following that charter provision for years. And we don't wanna have any of that, you know, we wanna make sure that they do follow it.
that's a question I have about, I know we asked this, who is responsible for holding the commission to following the charter, and what are the recourses if we discover that they're not following the charter?
The general rule is that the citizens themselves hold the city council responsible. They hold them, the elected officials, one is by unelecting them, don't re-elect them, or maybe recall them. There is a warrant to it's an old writ at law where a public official do his clear public duty. You can literally take him to circuit court and enforce it that way, but somebody's gotta front the money to hire a lawyer. And you know, if you sue your city council, you're gonna be persona non grata. What do you think about your building permits and so on that you may wanna pull in the future if you sue the city council? That gets to be a little tricky. One charter has a ethics commission, ethics board, where they appoint, I think, I don't know, nine members, one from each ward. It was a city that has wards. And they hire someone to be sort of a keeper or a watchdog over city council. That did not work out so well because they didn't hire a good person to be the watchdog. And then, and again, I'm going back to the city of Flint, this is all in the newspaper, this is all public documents, is that the city council was not doing what clearly was said in the charter, and a group of citizens got a lawyer, sued them, and the circuit court judge appointed a master to oversee the running of the city, not to tell them how to do it, but just to make sure that they were complying with the charter. And the city had to pay this master $100,000 a year to watch them do what they did. Now, they have the master, they have the ethics or the accountability group, and now yet city council is not doing what they're supposed to do in filling this vacancy, so this is now another lawsuit on that.
And I find that really interesting because a lot, here, we have all these people who are appointed. Like me, the city treasurer, the assessor, all of those. And we pretty much say, I know what that charter is from front to back. And I pretty much are saying, well, you gotta do this. The city treasurer says, here's the budget line. This is when we're gonna go to the, get the budget. This is when we're going to adopt it. This is what we're gonna do. And all of our department heads and appointees are saying, this is what we've gotta do. And we know what the charter is. So we're bringing all this stuff to the city commission saying, okay, it's time to do the charter. It's time to do the CIP. It's time to fill the vacancy. We just had somebody who resigned as a commissioner. Okay, this is what our timeline is, this is what we have to do. And we distribute it and say, okay, this is what we have to do. Advertise it, there, interest indicators, this. So
You're doing what you're supposed to be doing?
I don't understand, see, and I have a hard time figuring out how you can say, So anybody can say the city commission isn't doing a job. Well, if you have your staff and your good backing, of course they're gonna do what they're gonna do, because we're telling them this is what you gotta do. I have the hard time that someone.
We're very fortunate. I think we're very fortunate here.
It's hard for me to wrap my head around what you're saying.
If you have a competent staff, just the little aside here that makes, now that you've mentioned it, makes me smile. The city clerk was responsible for cutting my check. Send him a check, I think, every quarter or so on. And, you know, it took 6 months, 9 months to get a check out from her. I went to her office one day and I said, you know, what's the problem? Am I not doing it in the right form, or, you know, why? And she had a pile of paper on her desk. Like, and she couldn't find it. It got lost. She got lost in the mail. So, yeah, there's the problem. When and you, I'm sorry, I'm pointing my finger. You are a critical part of making the city run. You know what the timelines are. You know what. Why do they have a manager if they have you?
Somebody to keep him in line. She has that leash. She's not afraid of snatching it back.
One of the issues that came, we did have a joint meeting with the city commission back in July. And that was very soon after Commissioner Eppley resigned. And one of the questions they asked was, currently, the charter stipulates that they have to have that seat filled within
45 days.
45 days. And they wanted to expand that to 90. Right? One of the things we keep talking about in terms of what's workable, you mentioned what's workable, and being present in our mind about where we're living and what the trend is here, because we don't get a lot of people who want to step up and serve. We have to kind of beat the bushes to find people to step up and serve.
No, it's very simple. You pull somebody from planning commission.
No, we've tried that.
But it doesn't always work.
They don't always come. We can pull on them, but.
No, that's the best place, you know,
Yeah,
those
for
boards
sure.
and committees are your training grounds for the council members. And
Of course, actually,
That's how I got my start.
it was on planning.
But in any case, you know, when we're thinking about the time to advertise, give enough time for the public to be aware of the fact that there's a vacancy and here's the process for putting your materials in and so on and so forth,
Interviewing
and interviewing and so forth.
some people are less, there's usually not a criterion in the charter as to what, other than that they're elector of the city and perhaps 21.
And not in default.
Default.
We have to be like, right, you have to be a registered voter, you have to be, you know, live in the city within a year, you have to be not in default of the city. So we get all those candidates and then we have to start doing our homework, is to see if they're, you know, eligible.
But other than that, and that you can do pretty quickly, you know, the people,
But it's getting the people to actually come in and say, yeah, I wanna, interest indicated, I wanna serve.
well, the majority of the people who are recruited by the council members or by the manager, or somebody twists a little elbow here and saying, do your duty and do that. And
But it takes a
by the
little
way,
bit of time.
the chair of the Essexville Charter Commission became city manager of Essexville, and some members of Stevenson became council members, moved up. They got so enthused about what they're telling people what to do. They wanted to get their oar in the water, and they ran for council. Now, Stevenson's small town. It's
You're on
500.
notice now.
I'm sorry?
You're all on notice now.
I'm not making eye contact.
We still see you. Anyway,
I'm president of a nonprofit, and I stepped out of the room to go to the most important room in the building for a moment or two. And
elected.
by the, you got,
And absentia?
by the time I came out, I was president.
That's
That'll learn you.
So, yeah, so now, none of that anymore. What else can I tell you, background or?
Well, let me ask you how, did anyone have any other questions? So just, how do we proceed from here? I know you sent us your contract, and the advice that we got back from our city attorney was that we ought to, because my understanding is that we're meant to be independent of the city government. So what he suggested was that we submit our budget amendment to the commission first, and then
And then
we would,
contract
we
with
would
you.
contract
So the contract with you is with the charter revision, not with the city big
the
red.
city.
Is the,
You may have to read that response.
you
'cause
know, I,
We do have it with you.
I want to.
It's in here.
The city attorney says they're competent to be, to enter into the contract, that's fine. Generally, it's only, the police department. Is that me?
No, that's me.
Oh.
Separate, Jennifer, it's separate.
It's behind his,
Jennifer, stuff on the table there.
Oh,
behind his,
behind his thing.
yes.
Whatever, however you internally want to process it, that's fine with me. You guys know what the procedure is here. And, there's no rush to, Micah Myers.
Our city attorney is one of the attorneys with Micah Myers. The city has contracted with the company, with the firm.
You didn't like Eric, huh?
Eric retired,
Yeah, he
left us.
retired, you know?
left us willingly.
Yeah, it was sad.
Yes, it was.
He was on the previous charter revision.
Eric's been in the business a long time. Good guy.
Yeah, we tried to get him on the charter revision. He said no.
Well, it probably is smart because you want some non-city, the statute is pretty clear that you can't have anybody who's a city employee or elected official. They want fresh thinking on that, and that's what we want from you folks. So where do I'll leave you in terms of, there's gotta be a resolution, I guess, sooner or later to say that this group wants to hire me and then put it into the mill of whatever needs to be done in the city. And if there is such a resolution, then I can start working, forthwith. And the first question, of course, I have is, do you have your work that you have done accumulated? I know that there are,
Right up there.
We have a website.
That's our charter, and then we've made all of our
Stace, can you pull up our website?
proposal stuff, like in red. All the changes are in red. So we've gotten up to chapter 14. I think we're going over 14 and 15 today.
I think the website is only up to our September meeting at this point.
is that Muni code that you have?
No, not this. This is the charter.
This is
No,
our-
no, I know, but there's somebody prepared the old charter to that.
Yes, we do a
code form.
codification. We do codification. It's
And,
not minute code.
Was the company that did that for you
Yes.
was, and it doesn't matter, it looks,
It's a publishing company. We codify.
there's, American Legal Publishing in
That one there. That's
Cincinnati.
That's what we use.
I never heard of them.
Made that one up.
Our website with the link, so that Peter knows where to go.
It should be right up to date. It's up to date. November.
This is our website on the city website.
Okay, that shouldn't.
You see on the left,
That should
see on the left menu, related pages, it says revisions of the charter as of.
Okay, so you've got all of the whole thing from section 1.1
Yeah.
on there, okay.
We are just now up to chapters 14 and 15. And what's in red are the proposed changes that we have talked about. If there's yellow, it's language that we're still going around with. We determined, Ms. Weaver up here, who had a wonderful idea, that rather than trying to forefront what we think everybody thinks the values are, this is one of the questions that we're asking on our survey, are what are the values that you think should be applicable to government before we write our preamble?
So give me a value. For example,
Ethical political
Ethical?
leadership.
We want to be inclusive, we want to be transparent. Honest. Yeah, but that won't go in the preamble, but basically transparent and ethical is what we want to be.
well, one of the things that George or the AG is going to hit you with, you're going to have lots of references to the Open Meetings Act and Freedom of Information Act throughout your charter. They like those references.
In the different sections,
Sometimes, especially if, you know,
we'll cover both of them, but
I like the idea of saying that everything shall, the Open Meetings Act shall apply to the state law, or will apply to, and really that's what it is. You can't be any more, what can I say, liberal. You can't go into closed meetings where it's prohibited by state law. You can fuss a little bit. A good shyster lawyer can get you around some of those tricky things, but yeah, it's, yeah.
you said the Open Meeting Act, and what is the other one? Home Rule?
Freedom of Information Act. And to be honest with you folks, your Bible here in writing, and I don't know if you've done that yet, but this is where I start out. It's, chapter 117, that's the Home Rule Cities Act. And, it starts out the chapter or section 3, mandatory charter provisions. It goes on and on and on. And one of the chores that I have is to make sure that you're complying with this, you're complying with the Open Meetings Act, and 14th Amendment due process. If you're going to fire somebody, you want to make sure that we have, a hearing for that person, either through their union or through civil service or so on, that people have the benefit of due process and, the 14th Amendment. And how about rules for the city council? Are you going to have those already? They meet periodically. Oh, one of the things that we want to have is, when do you swear in the newly elected officials?
That's one of the things we're working on.
We were aware of the change in the law.
Okay, so it's got to be, it's rather straightforward, it seems to me, that you have it at the next regular meeting after the vote is certified,
That's exactly what we were talking
something like that.
about. We had it at the first regular meeting, period. And I
The
said,
election may not be
"No,
certified by
you're
that time,
right."
and then what do? You violate your charter or
Yeah,
violate
that's why I
the
said
state
when
law?
we started reading that, I'm like, that has got to get changed.
Okay.
Either that, or we said after it's certified, or I think we might have just said January 1st or something like that. But it, being after certified is probably, because it could, who knows? Keep going back and back.
Suppose there's a lawsuit.
Exactly, a recount and.
There's a place in California, I think they still have not certified
Right.
one of these U.S. House of Representatives.
They just did.
They did
They
do
just
that?
finally resolved it.
Okay, and that's what, a month later? So anyway, that's not gonna happen here, but it may happen at the county. I don't know how good the county
We
is.
see, we have ours elections on the odd year. So it doesn't fall in with any kind of state and federal. So if you're odd year, but still, if you have a recount, if you have, anything could make that timeline be certainly not the next meeting, which is only 2 weeks, and in this case, a week. Because our meetings are the first and third, but we changed the meetings, they're elections, so that we don't have an election, a meeting right before the election. So now on election months, it's the second and third. Well, in that case, that means they get voted on on Tuesday, and next Monday, you're gonna give them an oath. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Because now you also have 6 days now, you have to have the militaries and the, overseas voters. And it just doesn't work out real well anymore.
I like a time period after, whether it's 7 days after certification or whatever. Once the election is official, then you can swear them in or they can take their seat. Work that in. And I don't like the number of days. I don't like calendar days on that, just for what the reasons you stated.
You never know what the future is gonna bring either.
Exactly,
And these
exactly.
elections change, the rules change constantly.
Those are, So anyway, that would be one of the things that I would be doing. I want to make sure that we do. Now, for some cities, Flint, for example, I sat with them for all of their meetings because you do have rules of procedure here, right? Okay, just make sure we have those
We adopt them every year in January.
for the.
For the Charter Commission.
Charter Commission, yeah. The city commission, also every public body has to, or every committee and public body that you have here has to have a set of rules. You can have generic rules,
Which
but,
we do.
you can just have those. But Flint, I sat in on every meeting because they were so contentious. I was almost the referee to, keep the two fighting parties at peace.
That's how we are.
You're gonna start that stuff again?
And for the Essexville, they had, 90% of it written already. I went through kind of with my red pencil, brought stuff back to them that they needed to take a second look at. And then I sort of finished up by attending their meetings. Now, the Stevenson does anybody know where Menominee is? Menominee County?
That's where that's at.
That's where Stevenson is. So I went up there for introductory meeting or so on, and went up there somewhere halfway in between, went up for a public session. And then, when it was really presented to the public, they wanted a little bit of muscle there for that. So, I did 3 trips up there. So let's, if you want me, you can have me in person or set up.
That's me. I'm sorry.
No,
I left it on because I thought you were going to be calling me.
Yeah, well, my mediation was canceled. I had one in Hastings today.
Yeah.
I don't see the cameras. Okay.
They're here.
All right.
We're live.
Smile.
So, are you recording these? I gotta clean up my act here a little. I want to make this classy and very academic, very legal. So, whatever you want, I can do it via Zoom. I can sit in my living room and do that, or I can come up here.
We need to get a resolution passed at the city commission. That's our first order of business, I think, yep. And then from there, we can figure out the contracting.
Okay.
And we're gonna need to submit a budget. Well, I guess I'm gonna Here's our situation with the budget. You know, our fiscal year is July 1 to June 30. So we're gonna need to amend, say, between January and July 1st for the budget we're on now, right? And then we need to submit a new budget for the 25-26. Is that, am I saying that right?
I put down you saw I had $25,000. I'm not sure it's hard to tell what it's going to be, you know, it's so, I do it by the hour, roughly estimate. You're not gonna be as ugly as, I'm sorry, camera. This group
That's
is
contentious.
going to be more professional than perhaps the folks at Flint were. And we might be able to get it done with, you know, $10,000 or whatever. The big chunk of money for sure, or there is gonna be a big chunk of money at the tail end when George and I talk.
Be in the 25-26 budget.
Right.
And again, think about if you wanna leave it to the November election, or maybe you wanna leave it to the, what is it, May election? Is the the election before November?
Yeah,
Well, there's a May, there used to be in August, and
that's only for the primary.
it's only for the primary, so there's a May election, which is the school.
And all the,
26, there will be an August one as well.
Right.
you don't wanna have this as the only item on, otherwise you'll have to pay for that
Well, May
election.
election, we have schools every year, so.
Okay, so you're gonna run that anyway,
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Um,
just a thought.
I guess what I'm thinking, and anyone else can chime in as they feel need to, I would, I guess we can't ask you to do anything formally until we have you contracted, correct?
If you'll turn off the recorder, I can address that. Let's put it this way, I'm very flexible, and I have yet to have a city stiff me in terms of my fees or so on. So, you know,
Just what I'm thinking is, you know, it'd be, I would really appreciate having you look over what we've done so far as kind of the baseline for the conversation for maybe how we move forward.
I'd be happy to do that. You know, I can look at that, see
We
where,
still do have some money in the budget.
Yeah, well, we still have,
Tapped out.
right. So, sounds good.
No, you wanna discuss this, you know, you may, I don't know if we even have a motion and by the way, do you support a motion or do you second the motion?
we support,
Second.
city commission supports.
Normally move in second. But we don't
Second, yeah.
hold the people's feet to the fire for using the wrong words.
Yeah, because
Robert's rules.
that's Robert's rules. Yeah, I like kind of Robert's rules. They're a little clumsy, but those, if you don't have anything else, that's your default rule. No, if you support the person who seconds the motion does not have to vote in favor of the motion.
Correct.
Right,
Okay.
It's only, I second the motion to get it onto the floor so that we can debate it. If you say, well, I support the motion, then you're telling your colleagues, well, I support the motion and I'll be voting for it. It's going to be very difficult to say I support the motion and then vote against it. It's a little
good point.
cleanup type of a thing that, so anyway, if there's a motion and a second, and then there's discussion, because you don't discuss the motion before you have a second, right? No. Many times, especially with this type of a group, we discuss section 3.7, and then the chair will say, do I have a motion about 3.7 now that we've discussed it? It kind of is a little bit backwards. But that works in this situation. That's kind of contrary to Roberts, because Roberts says you can't discuss unless, but if you're aware of that, I guess. Okay. If there's a motion and a second, I don't know if there is, you want to have discussion, I am gone, so you can discuss candidly whether How many other people submitted,
You.
It's just changed.
no, no, no,
Did I say 25,000? I meant 250,000. That was,
no. It is what it is. I'm not surprised because there just aren't that many people who, the couple people that I know who do this stuff are even older and more decrepit than I am. You know, so,
Why are you not training some younger lawyers to come up so that future charter revisions are going to have benefit of your passed down expertise, your legacy?
I worked with a law student from Michigan State on working in Stevenson. And smart guy, really brilliant guy, loves the Upper Peninsula, doesn't want to leave that, and he would be a great attorney in the Upper Peninsula because you do need attorneys up there. And City of Larium hired him as their city manager. Now he's managing instead of attorneying. And guess who's going to be writing the charter for Larium? By the way, one of the things I do like that you have your meetings on Wednesday. I teach a class on Tuesday evenings. So I would have to make some major changes or ask you guys to do some major changes. So I've got to get Larium on Thursday. Well, if we're only on once a month right now, it seems to be. If we can do that, that isn't overly. Okay.
Very good.
Any other questions that you may have?
nope.
Thank you so
Chair.
much for coming up.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you, sir.
We've gone through and we've taken away all of the chairmen,
Yep.
so it's just chair. Okay. All the hims and hers.
Hims and hers and these and theys.
Piece of furniture.
And as I told your chair, I didn't want you to hire me without, what do they say, you can buy a car without kicking the tires, right? So you want to see what it's like.
All right.
Thank you. Oh, yeah,
Safe
But-
travels.
don't say I didn't do anything for you.
Nice.
Hey, is there some sort of bribe?
No, this is what de minimis.
Good.
This is,
Candy canes in there.
That's what I thought it was gonna be, honestly.
This is more utilitarian.
Thank you. Nice meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you.
it's my pleasure. I hope I can come and see you again. Sure, this is great.
Thick ones. Hey, good.
It's got it on some 80-pound heavyweight carts, not 100 pounds. Oh, there.
No, you guys would be pretty hard pressed for May. Be dialed to twice a month.
That is lovely.
Because if you're gonna do it for May,
If you didn't leave enough for Jennifer, I'm gonna go sneak out.
She absolutely.
Wow.
Are we all back? Yeah. The eyes in the back of my head.
I know.
Okay. Discussion? Any objections to using Mr. Litzman?
No, I don't have any objections.
I think it would be very helpful.
You know, I mean, when he starts talking about sitting down with George Ellsworth and, you know, going through it item by item, this is what enables them to get through that process, you know, hopefully on the first pass.
So I would suggest probably in January, we put on the agenda, set the budget. So you guys know what, you know, and then get it on the city commission.
And what about the resolution to hire him? You need a resolution to hire him? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you don't know you can hire him unless you know you have the money to do so.
That's true.
You need to go to the
Budget,
commission.
then
That's your first thing you need to do. You hire
This is
somebody
what I
that know you
just
have the money.
keep getting tripped up with in my head.
Do we know what our budget is at, where our budget is at currently, or is that something we'd have to look up?
Maybe,
We have 3475 still in the attorney line. There's also 800 in a consultant line for public meetings. Just like I said, his fee is the same as Brad Fowler's, it's
Right.
$250 an hour.
you guys need to figure out whether that's gonna take you to July or not.
Right.
June 30.
They have a little bit of money in there, but is it gonna be enough?
Here's a question, and I'm sorry if this is common knowledge. So, clearly, Mr. Letzman, like, to a certain extent, needs to be caught up on our position in this process and our specific charter. Is he charging us the going rate for all of that study work on his end? Do we need to sit down with him and brief him? How do we get this information into him without incurring excess cost for?
I think him just reading our charter, he's gonna know exactly where we're coming from. I mean, he's had enough experience to know that if he read that charter and he's seen our changes, he knows exactly what's.
Okay.
I can make sure that we're clear about that.
Yeah.
Okay, with him.
I just wouldn't want,
What the kind of timeline that we're working on here, since, well, we need to get that budget and figure that out. And I guess, you know, I guess this is the part that is hard to gauge, because, you know, if he, as long as he, you know, if we're going to hire him, you know, he might get started a little early. I don't know that that's gonna be on the clock yet or not, though. It would be helpful to me to, you know, I have no idea how to project how much we may need. Although my guess is it's better to overestimate than to underestimate, because we can always roll over whatever may be left if we haven't used it by July. Let's say, you know, if we're thinking, first of all, would we want him to be coming up for every meeting?
No.
We don't need him to come up for every meeting. Okay, so, I mean, and he's not charging us travel.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, that is nice. So, this is, I guess, you know, we need to be thinking about that, you know, how much we have 3475 in there already. How much more do we need to supplement for, that would be reasonable to get us to July 1st, which is the end of this budget year, this fiscal year, and then we'll have to figure out going forward what to request for 25, 26.
I need to look at,
Yeah.
I think the problem we might have is in the contract. Let's see what. Cause it says up to 25,000. And I think that may be where we might have the issue. Where is Brad's? Do you have Brad's?
Well, that's,
I do have a copy of Brad's memo,
Yeah,
or, I'm sorry, email.
let's see what he says about that.
that's the cap unless otherwise negotiated.
Right, but spread that out over the course of 2.5 years.
Yeah, well, again, it depends on what we need him to do.
That's just it. I wouldn't want him to assume that he has carte blanche to
No,
go in
no,
and engage in a bunch of front-end study and that
Yeah,
runs us
exactly
a
so.
bunch of hours. We just want to be really clear with him about, okay, here's the portion of this that we're prepared to dedicate to bringing you up to speed on our process, or maybe we want to dedicate a meeting to that so that we can answer any questions he has and minimize his study time on some of those things. And then once he knows, we kind of want to work hour by hour and piece it together, rather than, basically, we're on a 2-year, $25,000 retainer, bill us back anytime. I don't think those are the terms we want to have with him.
I'll just share with you, I asked him this in an email today, what the average cost was. And of course, it really does depend on how shape their charter is in the first place and so on and so forth. And so he said, Essexville, he said they were well organized, things went very smoothly, and the whole thing was 10,000.
I think he would be able to read ours and probably pretty much tell us.
Well, and we're not making a lot of major changes, like, we're not thinking to change the form of government kind of thing. Flint, on the other hand, was 30,000 because all of the extra stuff that was going on with their council and so on. So, I'm thinking, I don't know why we wouldn't be able to come in. I don't see any reason why we would even get close to 25,000. As he mentioned, the loaded part is at the end, sitting down for hours and hours with George Ellsworth and the AG.
That's your other budget year.
Right.
But you gotta remember too, you're approving the contract. And the contract says up to 25,000.
And the contract reads not 25,000 per year, but 25,000.
Everybody's got a copy of the contract.
I know, I saw it.
So let's see what it says.
He approving your budget
Number
25,000
Yeah.
in total.
Fees and agreement shall not exceed 25,000, number 4. But in reading Brad, the city attorney, even though, say you guys do a budget of, say, 10,000 or 15,000, he says here, by agreeing to this, the city would in fact be approving a budget of 25,000.
That's what I understood.
So maybe once you guys decide to say cap at 10 or 15, have him change the contract to say not to exceed 10 or 15. Change the contract. So you know it's not going to be any more than that.
Because he will be able to charge you all the way up to the 25
If you're agreeing
if
to it.
you've agreed to it, even if you haven't budgeted for it.
You should, yeah, that would be my suggestion. Because, this is going to go, the city commission, they're gonna look at all of this. And just because you say 10, this says something different.
I agree.
Maybe have it, do it, $10,000 for this year till July 1st, and then another contract July 1st.
For the next fiscal year, you could.
And looking at not just modifying the cost itself, but there are several things in here, like developing a timeline for approvals and stuff like that, that represents work we've already done. So I would say it would also behoove us to communicate that with Mr. Letzman, and then that, that might change his approach to it as well. He might not think that we need, as much time and therefore as much money.
Okay. You okay? Anything you want to add? Okay, I will get back in touch with him, kind of, go over some of this stuff that we've been talking about, and we will go from there. So we will plan on having on the January 8th agenda to set a budget for this. Which means also then, we need to submit the budget amendment and the resolution to hire him at the same time.
Yeah, that I don't, that would be, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, question Karen can ask. You just gotta be real careful with that contract. Can't stress that enough.
Um, Okay, old business. We had brought our attention to section 9.3, the Board of Review, and I think what she's saying here is the last 3 lines in that paragraph don't jive with how it's done with other boards. That was your
I
contention?
didn't see anything that,
If you look at section 14.5, which is the planning commission, right? Section 14.5 has removal from office, and what it says is the mayor and city commission shall remove from office any member of the planning commission who is absent from 3 consecutive meetings. That's not the same as what's stipulated in the Board of Review there. Unless the planning commission excuses the absences and enters the reasons for absences in its official minutes.
some of that is actually in the statute. Some of that is actually in the statute,
So,
the library board too.
so the Board of Review, what you're suggesting is our language should reflect the same as what it does in the planning commission?
Because I know in the library board, it actually does say, the mayor may, by and with the consent of city council, remove any member for misconduct or neglect of duty.
Right.
So that's actually right in the statute, and that's why it's in the charter. They mirrored it, so that one there, library did not change, because we wouldn't mirror it to say the rest of them.
What you found from your research was that there isn't anything to indicate that the mayor and city commission can remove a member of the Board of Review
I
for
didn't see
misconduct or neglect of duty.
anything, but that wouldn't be bad for Karen for you to ask Dan if he knows anything. I didn't see anything.
Well, I'm wondering, since the library board is different from what it says for the planning commission, in fact, the library board one actually mirrors more what the Board of Review is there,
Well, the library, like I said, library was right in the statute.
it's in the statute, there's no statute for the Board of Review. That speaks to this, or is there?
There might be, I can't tell you. Sitting on my desk.
Do we need to change this?
Karen's gonna ask Dan.
Oh, I see.
Dan Kerwin?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Item B in your old business.
Okay, so that one there, I did research on how long the city does franchises, and actually we did one in 2022, which is in your packet. And it's been with us for the year, so we still do this.
Okay. Anything else that we need to discuss on that? All right. Under new business, of course, I mentioned that Heather will come to the January meeting. We've already discussed letter B, now it's 7 o'clock. How far do you want to go? Do you want to get through chapter 14? Or would you rather do it in January?
I'm okay to stick around. Anybody else wanna?
I read through the 14, I don't know that there's a whole lot.
Then let's do it.
It's
Yeah.
a pretty
Crank it out.
scant chapter.
Do
If we
it.
can crank it out fairly easily, let's just do it.
14.1. Up there, Stacy. There's a sentence that starts with members. 14.1, let's see.
How are we changing plan board?
We get right here, starting here, all that can be
Yeah, that
taken out.
sentence can go.
Because it's serving at the time of this charter. Effective to continue to serve on the planning commission until their terms expire. There was a change in terms, which means that sentence no longer needs to be in there. Not for the new charter. That was when they changed terms. So that right there, from members until expired, that whole line.
First full
can be taken
sentence,
out.
page 20, members of the plan board serving at this time, or at the time this.
We're taking that whole sentence out?
Yeah, because it doesn't pertain anymore to this charter.
Okay.
I didn't see anything in the whole.
Compensated for their attendance that. Our planning commission compensated?
No, they are not. And actually, that does say right here in there's the statute that they can be. We have looked at all of our boards to see whether we wanted to compensate some or, you know what I mean, or whether we didn't. Unfortunately, some boards, like the library board, specifically says in the statute they cannot be. So pretty much staff felt that one can't, none of them should be able to. You know? So we haven't, that was kind of been on the back burner. Because some you can and some you can't. Now everybody wants to be on the board that gets compensated.
I do.
I'll get some more volunteers that way. Okay, anything, no changes to 14.2?
Yeah, I had one here. It's just confusing the wording. The term shall be staggered so that not more than 3 terms expire in any 1 year. That should maybe just be commissioners' terms.
Not more than 3 commissioners' terms?
Yeah, in other words, the count isn't of the terms, but of the commissioners.
3 members.
Members,
Instead
commissioners.
of terms.
Okay, 3 members are not termed out.
Now, instead of 3 terms.
I see what you mean.
And that should be possessive.
I-
3
I
members,
would say
terms
those
expire.
3 members.
But not more than, I hate these double negatives.
No idea. Not more than
Crazy
3
index,
members'
especially since you've been up
shall
forever.
occur if 3 members' terms expire
Um,
in any 1 year.
Not more than 3 members, apostrophe terms? Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay,
The city staff had recommendations to change it from 3 consecutive terms on the planning commission to 4.
Yeah, I think way back when we were looking at the boards, I think we've already decided that we're gonna be 4 terms. You know, all the words that can be.
Okay, so no person shall serve more than 4 consecutive terms on the planning commission. Everybody there?
And then the last sentence also has 3 consecutive terms. That's going to be changed as
Ah.
well.
Good. Okay, 14.3.
There is a suggestion to remove in September. So it's just at the first meeting of each year, instead of at the first meeting in September of each year.
I know, and I went looking at this, and I've been looking at the statute, and September's all over this, so I don't know if that's a reason why we have September in here, but they refer to September 1st a lot in the statute. And I thought, well, maybe that's why.
Is there a deadline at the state level or something for,
It says, September 8th, have planning commission create a form on the blah, blah, blah. I didn't understand too why it's all September, and same 14.5, at the first meeting in September, the planning commission shall adopt a regular schedule of meetings. I don't know what the specific of that
Rationale
September is, but it's apparently gotta be something. 'Cause otherwise, why wouldn't you just make it January?
And
But
And that
a
was
lot
what
of them
the
are
staff
like that.
wanted to do.
I think Park and Rec is also, I think in July, in their bylaws, you have to pick your chairs, so that'd be kind of different.
Well, you know, planning commission terms are up in May.
Yeah, I
Terms
just,
end
I
in
don't know
May.
what the significance of September is,
I don't know.
and whether we should change it. That would be something that, more than likely, seeing that, you know, it's a state statute, you know, the selectman's gonna know that.
Yeah.
What's the significance of September? Because there's another, I think the library board also specifies September. And it's like, something's going on in
Is it
September?
6 months before the budget is due? So it gives them time, as the planning commission, to make recommendations for the budget.
Okay. Because that's usually when CIPs, you know, start and. I know she's in the process of doing CIPs, you know, right now. So that just might be a question for. Well, can we change it? Because you gotta remember too, you change it here, now you're changing all the bylaws.
Okay. All right, anything else from 14.3, 14.4? Pretty self-explanatory. Is there any change that anyone sees there? Okay, 14.5,
Just that September, if we
same
can.
thing there, yeah.
Oh, here.
14.6, removal from office, we talked about.
I never knew there were so many kinds of
I know.
So many kinds of what?
feasance.
Oh, malfeasance, misfeasance,
Or non-feasance.
non-feasance, oh, yes, many feasances. The Feasance sisters, Mal, Mal, Miss, and. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little punchy.
I only say that to say that what Mr. Letzman was saying about plainness of language, and Foster brought this up at the last meeting, is there a way to simplify some of that? Anytime we see something like this where I think it's almost like it just seems excessive, is there a way to, is there a shorter word to get there so that it's accessible?
Doing bad things. They can be removed for doing bad things.
Feasances.
Okay.
Misconduct?
Yeah, but then they say what kind of misconduct, what constitutes misconduct? You know, just saying a bad word, make it misconduct, or what exactly is that?
It's like the end of the
Misfeasance.
sentence. It's upon written charges and after a public hearing, so. Can we change the beginning?
What are legal terms? We can ask, that's a question we can ask.
I can't find anything in the statute.
Yeah, I think that's, anything else for planning commission? Had Michelle Stenger said something about expanding the number of commissioners on the planning commission? 9, am I making that up?
Well, most of them are, wanna go down now.
Okay, I haven't heard that, but
Because I think Park and Rec requested to go down.
Okay.
No, it's hard.
Something stuck in my mind that they wanted to just change the number of members on the planning commission. I thought Michelle had said something about that, but I can't.
I can ask her.
I don't have any.
She's,
If she's thinking that.
I mean, it's hard enough to get a quorum now, let alone get a bigger board.
Could you follow up with that? You know, just check with her and make sure that we're not skipping over anything. Okay, library board.
The May, September.
Yeah. I have in my notes that we added the fifth line up from the bottom, which says starts with no director. I have in my notes to include, put no board director in there.
Yeah, you're talking about 15.4.
13.2.
Two.
No board director shall serve more than 2 consecutive terms.
Why do we call them directors and not members and like all the other boards?
Well, that's.
This is
That's state
library
statute.
board statute stuff.
The library board is a, a different animal here. There's lots of pages for these statutes dictating the library board.
Including the length of their terms,
Yeah.
just because in 3.3, in establishing boards, it says that it's 3 years for all boards.
Right, this one here says a term of office for each member of a governing board may be changed by ordinance to a term of not less than 2 and no more than 5. And the city had picked 5. And then we did 2 terms for 10 years.
In 3.3C, establishing city boards, it says that the terms of members appointed to such boards shall not exceed 3 years, except as otherwise provided by this charter or state law. Like,
Yeah, that, right.
why did they choose 5 if?
Well, because then they did 2 and they'd go 10 years. Then I think that was almost as much as 12 years when you do 3. 3, 6, 9, 3, 6, 9, 4, 8, 12. It's, I mean, how many years you want somebody on a board? It's just, yeah. Who knows what they were thinking? They were probably trying to make it as consistent as they could. Because like I said, we all want everything to be consistent, but this doesn't let you on most boards. We try to make it as close as we can. And 3, 6, 9 was 3 years for 3 terms, was 9 years. This would have been 2 5s would have been 10. Pretty close.
Um, 15.4.
Sorry, but there's some more of that language in 15.2. There's the, I lost it, sorry.
Here's that, serving at the time of the charter
Yeah,
was effective.
Yeah,
No.
so
Just saw that. We're like right in the middle of that paragraph.
directors of the
Directors
library
board.
board through until their terms expire.
So we can take that sentence out?
Yeah, from directors to expire.
Right up right there.
Is there anything else in that one? 15.3. 15.4.
15.4, there was a recommendation to strike out, I believe, the last sentence.
Yeah, I don't think we can do that.
We need to be careful about that one.
We can't do that. I have it right here.
Which,
Says, the governing board has the power to appoint a suitable librarian and necessary assistance and fix their compensation. Oh, that's pretty much what it says. It says here the board shall select and appoint a library director and other employees as it deems necessary, subject to the budgetary approval. That's pretty much what it says. I thought, yeah, until I started reading this, I'm like,
There's a note that says the library board does not do this.
I know, but they do. They do. I wrote that, and I thought, yeah, it looks like they do.
Library fund, 15.5, anything? Pretty straightforward. 15.6, annual report.
Supposed to be annually, should there be a timeframe? What part of the year?
Where is this? What are we talking about?
You know, annual report, just, it doesn't stipulate when in the year that report should be made.
I think
Just
we're
that it
better
needs
off
to be
not
done
adding
annually.
dates. I think adding dates just complicates things.
Yes,
We're
they do.
trying to change dates, so I think we're better off just saying annually it has to be done, and then it can change over time as it needs to.
Because sometimes Lauren comes 2-3 times a year and gives a report to the commission. Says, here are our activities, this is how many people we've had. I mean, yeah, I agree with Stacy, that just complicates
So the annually is kind of a minimum annually then?
things. Yeah, and sometimes she does it more.
Okay, 15.7, same question about September, the magic of September. And we can find out about that.
Maybe just 4 months after term starts. Some time to settle in or something? That was the original idea.
Right, so- What does it, where do you keep it in?
Removal from office. That's the language you said, that's in the statute. About removal from office, correct?
It says the mayor may, by and with consent of the city council, remove any member for misconduct or negligence of duty. That's what it says here.
And donations. Seems pretty straightforward. Yes? What do you know? Is it 17 then?
That's a new record for us, for
Good.
real.
Very good. Okay, so, next meeting, January 8th, is to do, figure out a budget situation. We're going to look at 16, 17, 18 and 19 now. Remaining
You're
four,
doing them all right at one time.
well, we can try.
You wanna add 18 and 19 to it as well?
We'll see, I mean, those are short, we'll see how it goes. Aim high, big. The other thing that we now need to figure out, and everybody really needs to participate in this, is getting the word out about the survey.
I'm good with getting word out. That is my strength. You're welcome.
I like what he was saying about churches. I think that, I liked what he was saying about having gone to churches. I think that's a good way to access people who live locally and would take the time to do that.
Yes. I will just share with you, I heard back from the woman who's the president of VFWC, and they basically turned me down for coming to talk to them about the charter because like 90-some-odd% of their members don't live in the city.
Oh,
And only one of their board members lives in the city, so they didn't feel it was
Appropriate.
good use of their time. I'm sorry to hear, but that's what they told me, so just FYI. We're gonna get stuff out on social media, we're gonna hit the Pioneer. We've got the bookmarks, hand them out, people you know, we have this survey up, we really need your input. It's really easy peasy, you know, don't take long. Now that we have the survey up, I'm gonna hit the Big Rapids News Media, get on the radio, let people know, you know, give a little blurb about the charter, I can do Carlene.
About doing a public town meeting type thing or town hall type thing where we could answer questions, people could come in.
We could do that, and it would, what I
How
was
far
thinking
down the
about that.
road?
Well, what I was thinking about is if we start getting enough people who say, I don't know, need more information on the survey, and I hope that we do. I hope that people are at least interested enough to maybe find out some more. Then I think that would be a good thing to be doing, follow up with that. So be thinking about that, get working on that since the link is up now, and we'll get going on that.
Have you received any email on,
I had one email, like as soon as the CRC email opened up, that was just somebody saying they don't think we need term limits because that's why we have elections. That's the only one I've gotten so far.
anybody do the survey yet?
Contact Steve about the survey.
I've got one thing, I've given everybody a new revised call list. You'll notice on the bottom, it says Karen and Amy. They're no longer on there. So.
So don't call me, don't email me. You're saying.
Get you know. It just said after Friday, Kim's gonna. So it's not, you're gonna get undeliverable. So.
Before we go, first of all, I want to say a big, big, big thank you to Karen Gillis for all of her wonderful efforts and work on our behalf. So appreciated working with you and learned a lot from you. And
I definitely second that, 'cause for a long time, you've got the city moving along, a long time.
You are appreciated.
oh, yes,
Karen will be just fine.
Absolutely.
I know she will. Are you getting sworn in tomorrow at her party or?
Yeah, actually I am. Being sworn in.
Sworn in?
tomorrow.
You get a crown?
I hope so. I hope so. Wouldn't that make my day amazing?
She gets a heart, she gets a helmet.
Okay. And just last but not least, have a very safe, happy, joyous holiday season, however you observe it. Stay well, get some joy in your life, get some rest.
I guess everyone's in town, aren't they?
Is it getting nasty out?
Yeah, but I'm in town, so I guess I think it is, but I don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
And we'll,
Well, I might get there by 11.
where are you going? Meeting is adjourned. And see you in the new year.
Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send everybody a login link by email.
Okay.
That way, everybody will have something clickable. It won't be floating around out there on paper where anybody